if you can find players that have got a why, then you go a long way to building a team with the right stuff. If you can find players that give a shit, how do you make them give a shit? Make them choose you. Make them choose to be here, especially if they've had options. What's the option? Play Champions League football, probably get paid the exact same, still choose Manchester United. That's a big tick in a box for me.
Hello and welcome to Stretford, Paddock. My name is Joe, that is Stephen Howson, and we are going to talk about Manchester United's identity. Yeah, always Manchester United. Today we're talking about the identity of the club and the team and how it has been changed over the last few months. I feel like every week that goes by, every big decision that goes by, every new transfer, every link, we are seeing more and more a kind of a sculpting of Manchester United in a certain direction. So we're going to have a look at that and sort of what's changed, why it's changed, and whether it's for the better.
Feels reactionary, Joe.
Well, I think this is built up slowly over a number of months. I don't think it is reactionary. Do you think it is?
Yeah, because I'm thinking that once we signed Cunha, there was an absolute wigging out at not being able to sign Mbeumo. We still haven't signed a striker, technically. I know it's quite close.
Yeah.
But then it felt like with that Baleba news coming out, everyone went, oh, that's the team that's going to win the league.
Well, that's
you're like, hang on. No, for starters, but it's better.
Yeah, it is better. And also, I'm not just talking about that we are ready to win the league. I'm talking about the things that are underpinning the decisions that we're making. So there's a few things I want to get into. One is the age profile of the players we're signing. One is this sort of running theme that we only want players who want to be here and who are actively willing to choose us over other players.
What a mad, bold move that is.
Exactly, but it's not been the case in the past, or it hasn't always been the case. The other is the fact that we are actively getting rid of players who on the pitch are probably better than some of the options they're leaving behind. And are trying, at least, to get rid of them simply because they don't tick all the boxes off the pitch. And also a little look at the fact that we are trying to fill in roles that we can all see are lacking, and we're trying to do it quickly. So let's start with the age side of things, because that's one that is a lot easier to quantify. There's no guessing about that. Manchester United haven't even targeted a player over the age of 26, I think, since Ineos arrived, let alone in the last 12 months. So for instance, United have signed Matheus Cunha this summer, I think it was 26, and Mbeumo turned 26 today. Then you've seen...
Happy birthday, Brian.
Happy birthday, of course. Then we've seen, obviously, Benjamin Sesko. It looks like that deal's going to get done. He's 22 years old. We've seen these links to Carlos Baleba. He is 21 years old. Then we've signed Enzo Cannabéic, who, again, is a teenager.
Who?
Don't worry about that. He's already on loan at Lausanne. We've seen links, and we've signed Diego Leon as well, of course. Matthijs de Ligt, Ugarte, Xerxes, even Yoro, 18 when we signed him, even Mazraoui, who's a little bit older, but he was only 26 when we signed him. We've seen that almost culminate in this
It's almost like that ESPN article that Footwit wrote was a load of old cake, isn't it, Joe?
Which was that one? Was
it Ryan O'Hanlon, who was like, United are not signing players for the future. Look, when we signed Cunha and Mbeumo. And you're like, oh, right, yeah. Which is the only two we've signed that are that old, mate.
Yeah. And even that isn't remotely old.
It was like their best seasons are going to be the next 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Right?
Fine.
Fucking and?
Yeah. I mean, it is an obvious departure, isn't it? You can go back just a sort of the last chunk of years before this. We signed the likes of Cavani, Ronaldo. We signed
Varane,
Casemiro, Christian Eriksen, all of which were 28 or older. And they were some of the biggest earners at the club at the time we signed them. They're not just sort of fringe players. How important is that if you are going to properly reset and rebuild, that you do it with players that can be here for more than just 2 or 3 years?
I think that's not a factor, but okay. I think a big factor in it is also the value of the contracts. Varane was only coming for mad cash. Casemiro would only come for mad cash. If we do manage to get Baleba, and I honestly think it's a very outside chance, I think we're going to go for him. Is the sort of tie knot in it sort of. I actually do think we are going to go for him. I think that's why that's been discussed. He's on 12 grand a week, right? Only the same as you, right? So
I wish.
Joe's on 11. So we can put him on a good wage. We can 10x his wage and it doesn't break the bank. Like that puts him on like probably a standard Manchester United first team wage. Whereas if you go for him after he's been at a top tier European club, it's 350 grand a week. I think that's a factor. It's not necessarily just the age profile, because I think the age thing has been mad overplayed. People talk about the resale value. You know my feelings on the resale value. Also, like Ollie Watkins, I actually do think we were looking at Ollie Watkins. I don't think we'd completely ruled him out. I still don't think we've completely ruled him out. I think if Benjamin Sesko doesn't happen, I think you'll see Ollie Watkins, and Villa can say he's not for sale. Yeah, he is. Yeah. People are acting like 32 is finished in football nowadays. Zlatan might be an outlier, but Zlatan only was good after 30, realistically. Or he had his literal best decade as his 30 to 40 decade. You're not done at that age. But I think what you do get when you go for a squad, when you know, if we'd have brought in Baleba instead of him going to Brighton when they sold Caicedo, United would be looking at a serious talent ourselves now. And it saves you money. If you can get them before they're the £100 million signing that Baleba probably going to end up being, I think there's a little bit of something in that. So you can afford to take more risks. You can sign 5 players when they're 15 and 20 million and have one of them be your £100 million signing and maybe not lose too much on the ones who aren't, like a Malacia. You might get 3/4 of your money back because he was so cheap. Whereas if you spend 100 million on a Casemiro or 70 million on a Casemiro and he don't work out, have you even ever seen a fee attached to Casemiro, or is it someone will just take his wages and contract on? That's the game, isn't it? So you don't get any of that back. And I think it's a valid question is, how are we paying for all of this? Yeah, I don't know, right? But it becomes a bit easier when it's only 15 and 20 millions rather than 70 millions, which, unfortunately it kind of is at the moment. Yeah. But you can get some of that back if you do manage to sell some of those players.
And also, like you said, Casemiro, you buy him knowing that there's almost no way you get barely anything back from him. You're buying him because you think he can be the difference between 4th and 1st or 5th and 2nd or, whatever. Yeah, 15th and 6th. But you buy him because you think he can make a big impact now. You know that in 3-4 years' time, the 29-year-old isn't going to be worth a lot. Whereas with these players, maybe they could have a decent time at United and still be worth, like you said, 2/3, 3/4 of what you bought them for.
If not the same, yeah.
If not the same.
I mean, we made money on Dan James. Yeah. That's a perfect example of we bought him, we played him for a little bit, wasn't quite what we wanted, made a profit on him.
Yeah.
Gangster.
Yeah, perfect. And we don't see that hardly at all with Man United. The other thing that I think is worth talking about as well is not just the age profile of these players, but this consistent factor that they are choosing Manchester United, not just out of thin air, but also they're willing to not fold to the bids and the requests of other clubs in favour of Manchester United. They're actively, we're sort of Real Madrid in it a little bit, where you're going, just tell them you're not going to join because you want to join Man United. And they are. We've seen that happen with Mbeumo because there was many clubs that wanted him, including Newcastle, including Tottenham reportedly toward the end. We've seen it happen again with Sesko now, where Newcastle put in 2 bids, outbidding themselves for no real reason before we'd even entered the market. And then all the reports are Sesko has chosen Man United. That's the only club that he wants to join. How important is it, especially when you see, in contrast to the Di Marias, or, obviously he's one that stands out. There's been a few reports down the years of players that didn't really want to join, but were willing to because of those wages you mentioned or whatever, that especially during a rebuild, especially when you're trying to get players to buy in, that they are desperate to be here. Is that a crucial part of these sort of transfers, do you think?
Yeah, massively so, because I think football leaves a lot on the table in terms of sports psychology. I think it's way behind a lot of other sports, especially the combat sports especially. I think it's behind in the strength and conditioning side, massively. And I think one of the things that a lot of other sports get so well, that I think football is, it's got this perception of the players being a bit soft and a bit mollycoddled and maybe a little bit mentally weak. And I think there's some truth to that. Not universal truth. There's still mentally strong players. The Roy Keanes of this world are a lot less frequent than they used to be. And you get a lot of players that have been treated a certain way for a long time. And maybe this is the issue that Jadon Sancho finds now. None of them get told no. They haven't had to overcome too much adversity. They've been very good and they've managed to sort of stay on top of the wave, if you like. They've not really had to come through the grind, which forges character in a way that maybe combat sport athletes do, or maybe rugby players do, or maybe a lot of Olympians have to do because of the relative lack of fame and fortune that comes with it at such an early age You get the fame and fortune if you win gold in the Olympics. And to win gold, you have to grind. You don't just get gold. You can be 17 years of age, burst onto the scene as a footballer, not really have had to suffer to get there, and now all the diamonds and riches and paid free birds that you could want.
You've got a 15 grand a week contract for doing essentially nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas, and if you're a pentathlete, good luck finding that.
And I think the thing that I'm circling here is the why. A lot of sport, you can endure the hardships and you can achieve if you've got a really strong why. And the strong why might be that I really like Manchester United and I want to see them win well. If you're just turning up because this is a job and they pay me a fortune, and that player's turning up because he cares about Manchester United. And Bruno Fernandes might be a great example here. He gets a lot of shit as a United captain because he throws his arms in the air. He gives a shit. There's no doubt in my mind that he gives a shit. Is he as stoic a character as Wayne Rooney or as Roy Keane or Nemanja Vidic or even Gary Neville? No, he's not. He's a different personality. He's a different character. Does he care any less? I don't think he does. I think he cares exactly the same as they do. I think he cares as much about whether Manchester United win as any of our great captains do. And I think maybe he shows it in a different way. But I think the fact that he rejected going to Saudi for generational, life-changing cash to stay at a team that's just finished 15th tells you everything you need to know about that man's character. Does that mean he's going to fight harder on the pitch for us next season? I think it does. And I think that matters. And I think if you had to ask, who would you trust to fight for us, him or Sancho?
Yeah, no question.
There is no question.
No.
But if you can find, because there's not like an external test you can do about that character. It might be immeasurable. If you can find players that have got a why, then you go a long way to building a team with the right stuff. If you can find players that give a shit, how do you make them give a shit? Make them choose you. Make them choose to be here, especially if they've had options. What's the option? Play Champions League football, probably get paid the exact same, still choose Manchester United. That's a big fucking tick in a box for me.
Yeah.
And I questioned Lenny Euro one. Did we offer him more than Real Madrid?
Yeah.
Maybe, right? He still chose us. And he doesn't play like it was a bad decision. He's playing like it was the right decision. Play like he cares. And we've seen him already grow and develop as a player in the short time that he's been with us. Players choosing Manchester United and not for the money is massively preferable to any other way of us bringing recruits in, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also think sometimes that why, when you say you're looking for that, Ralph Rangnick he made the point as the United manager, I've seen him make it before and after he came to United as well, about how he likes to sign players who are on their first or second professional contract because they have that why built in, because they want to prove themselves as footballers. You can't rest on your laurels when you're 21 and you've not won anything, or you're 22 and you look at Benjamin Sesko or even Brandon Burn. I know there's there's an age gap there, but they both could not retire now and say, I did everything there was. They still want to show everyone, I can be world class, I can win trophies. And sometimes you add the fact that there's this inherent thing of, I'm not Casemiro, I haven't won 4 league titles, 4 Champions Leagues.
How honourable is it that Casemiro's not down tools?
Yeah,
because I thought towards maybe earlier in the season he was knackered or whatever, but the back end of the season he was showing up and he was digging out and he looked like he gave a fuck.
And there will be players that have won everything that still have that Roy Keane mentality. Like you said, they don't not exist anymore, but you can sort of increase the likelihood that they will turn up and they will care and they will work harder by factoring in, do they like Manchester United? Do they want to be here? Have they got more to prove to the world and to themselves? I start adding all these things up, and don't give them 400 grand a week because then you can go, who cares? My family's sorted. All of these things add to a level of why are they putting the effort in? Why will they fight harder? And I think United obviously can see that. And I don't think it's a coincidence that these players are younger, they haven't proven as much in their careers, and they want to play for Man United specifically. That feels like a great sort of starting point. Moving on to the sort of inverse of that then, the players and the ones that we're trying to get out of the club. We've seen with Garnacho, like you look at what Garnacho's actually done as a Man United player to get sort of kicked out, if you will. We've seen club legends at Man United do worse almost in terms of arguing with the manager, falling out, doing silly things off the pitch, I know that Garnacho's been a bit of a piss taker, and maybe there was the lineup leak stuff, and he said, I should have played the final, but really, in the grand scheme, it's not cataclysmically bad.
He's not drinking and driving, smacking his missus around, as far as I know. Like, he's not doing anything illegal.
No.
It doesn't appear. It's just like his face don't fit.
Yeah, and sometimes, like you said, there's not always a way to quantify it, but the fact that we are just saying, you know what, that's too much. You question the manager publicly, as minimal as it may have been. When we had it up, you left early for the training game, you were late for a few sessions, we're just going, no, zero tolerance. Do you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, again, I think that football is spoiled in a big way by the money and by the attitudes that are allowed to persist around and some of the players. They are treated like superstars without having to earn the status of being a superstar. And even superstars, still just a fucking bloke at the end of the day. Don't mean you get to be a prick. And when you think about the most successful players that we've ever had, hard work and team first was through all of them. Whether it was Cantona, right, who was called this arrogant sort of whatever, it was all about the team. Roy Keane, aggressive, blah, 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 blah. Fucking hell, he'd have died for the team. Wayne Rooney sacrificed his own career for the team. That's why they were... Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, play wherever you needed him to and just do it like it was born to do it. Like, that's why he was 20 legend. It wasn't just for putting the ball in the back of the net in 26th of May 1999. It was the attitude and the way he carried himself throughout all of that. Never kicking up a fuss. The complete opposite. Not leaking lineups. Not spitting his dummy out. Not throwing a bib back at the coach. And, there's plenty of stuff that... Some stuff has come out. The fact that it come out that he'd been told to find a new club, don't think that's a coincidence. Has the fact that, he was being a dickhead in training, that's not leaked. Wonder why that's not leaked. If that was the case. I don't know that's the case. I'm presuming that's the case. Because like you said, it feels like it was a relatively short fuse from flash to bang to pack your shit, find another fucking club. There's no way that we've been given the full debrief of why, which tells me a lot, actually. Yeah. And I think the fact that the manager, when you look at the data about him on paper, as that fuckwit with the ESPN article wrote, one of the most productive wingers in European football in terms of the goals and assists that he generated in the amount of games that he generated them in. The problem with that is, doesn't tell you the decision making, doesn't tell you the countless times that other people were free and he chose to shoot, or the manner in which he chooses to shoot, or the attitude of him at times. And I think Rasmus Højlund's going down the same sort of way. You see him kicking the post when someone doesn't pass to him. How about just fucking reset and go again?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that attitude and that working environment is absolutely huge. And if you've got a team that you can trust, I think trust is the word that really means the most here. If you can trust your team that they're going to dig in and they're going to go for it. And it's not necessarily about always being positive when things are going wrong, but there's a manner to encouragement. Roy Keane will still call you a fucking dickhead if you drop a pass. But he's not attacking you. You know what I mean? He's not...
Yeah.
He's upset that this pass didn't fucking happen. Why? Because we're trying to make the fucking team better. That's why. We're trying to win. And I think some players do it for selfish reasons. I don't think Roy Keane's ever came off as selfish. It was only for the benefit of the team. Whereas I think with Garnacho, some of his tantrums on the pitch felt because he wasn't getting things that elevated his game. And then the way he played was quite selfish. And his decision-making always seemed to revolve around get me the goal, get me the assist, rather than get the team the goal, get the team the assist. Because you can be a selfish player. Ruben Van Nistelrooy was one of the most selfish players I've ever seen. But it worked because he was doing it for himself, for the team. And I know that sounds contradictory, but it makes sense in my own head. You know what I mean?
And also, you can be more selfish when you're at the front. You're the focal point. You're the one whose goal it is solely to put the ball in the back of the net. By being selfish in that area,
you score 40 goals, you get to be selfish as well.
Yeah. Whereas if you're a winger whose job is to track back and to transition from defence to offence and vice versa, and to find your teammates and to score goals, and you just want to have a shot every time, that is a different type of selfish that isn't helping the team. Just finally, I want to talk a bit as well this sort of other piece that you mentioned on the podcast last week, but about this sort of code of conduct that they've sort of signed. And that, to me, feels like such an old school thing that you can almost imagine is almost like, yeah, of course you have to turn up on time and be on time for training and matches and and all the things that are on there. That's just so obvious, and it's such an unwritten rule that we won't write it down. And then eventually it goes from being unwritten to unfollowed. And then you're like, actually, we're going to have to just bring this back and have it written down, glued to the wall, everyone's had an email, whatever. Like, it seems like the sort of thing that should just happen, but clearly hasn't been happening.
Yeah, I know that we've just introduced fines this season at Stretford Paddock FC.
Yeah.
I put them on my Instagram the other day. And they're hilarious, right? And one of the things that's on there is turning up in another team's kit is a fine. And our fines are £2-3, right? And we have 16-year-olds in our team, so they can do press-ups for £1, right? 30 press-ups is £1. So if they fuck about, then, you know. And I got loads of replies to the story. People saying, no way have you got a rule about turning up in other people's kit. And I went, do you know why it's a rule? Because people turn up in other people's kit. Especially at our level, you got young lads that play for 3 different teams. They play for the under-21s of these, the first team of us, or whatever. They've got a lot of different kits. They will turn up in other people's kit or training. They might turn up in a United kit. That's not the team. You turn up in our team kit. Like, wear our fucking kit. Hence you get fined. Being late, you get fined. You think, well, you shouldn't be late. They're fucking late.
Yeah.
Right? I was against it because we're an amateur team. We don't pay. And I was like, I don't want to be fining players' money. Now, obviously, we don't keep the money. The money goes back to the players. By the looks of how it's gone for the first 2 games of the season, we're going out to China White for the end of season do, because Christ on a bike are they getting rinsed. But it's all sorts of rules, like, flip-flops for the shower and things like that. It's like, I had nothing to do with it. The lads came up with it themselves. Right. It's policed by the lads. There's a committee that runs it from the senior players, and the lads are putting it in themselves. But United tried to do this a few years ago. I think Matic was one of the people that tried to do this. Yeah. I think was Pogba and Sancho a massive drama of non-adherence to it. Like, they were late constantly. They were, and what other ever rules which you would presume are a little bit more serious, and probably more than £1.
You'd have thought so, wouldn't you?
Probably more than £1, yeah.
Yeah, probably a few zeros on the end of
that. In terms of the fines that they get with. But yeah, you're right. It's gone from being the unwritten rules that you just follow to unwritten and unfollowed. So we're going to have to write these down so we can get people to follow them again. Now, I did speak to one of the players and asked him about this. So we accidentally broke it, I guess, on a pod. And then, like, the BBC and the Athletic and everyone all wrote about it about a week later. It's quite funny reading some of your comments, by the way. People were like, why does this dickhead think he knows about something and the media's not wrote about it? We knew. So, shut up.
You knew.
Yeah. And then I did speak to one of the players about it and asked a bit more detail, a bit more what was about it. And the player that we spoke to said, we had it last year, but it's now being referenced nearly daily.
Right.
And the manager's added some new things to it, and it's being sort of emphasised a lot more. Now, the only things that I knew of that were on it was things like interaction with the fans, and I wonder if that came off the back of that post-season friendly where
it was
a
in
couple
Hong
of players,
Kong, wasn't it?
Yeah, were flipping off the fans. So that sounds like it maybe was a new thing that got added. There was code of conduct in terms of dress, in terms of, I think you might have said phones at like meals maybe or something like that. I can't remember if that one, I don't know if it was, I don't know if that was discussed but not, or just, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it sounds like there was quite a lot on there, and obviously the manager seems like he's mentioning it more now than he did maybe last season. Maybe just nipped it up just a little bit. And it might just be something that he emphasises out pre-season and maybe eases off as the season gets into the swing of things. Maybe he just fucking uses it as a discipline tool all the way through. Like, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. But I do generally think, from an amateur team perspective, not sure. Seems to have been pretty good for us so far. From a professional team point of view, I would absolutely want to see it enforced. And I probably would enforce it as the manager. If I was paying the players, you better fucking believe we found Ronaldo in the changing room this week. He's on his fucking phone.
That's good. How much?
It's like £2, I think, for your phone.
It does add up there, doesn't it, like you said? Just generally then...
We're over £70 from 2 matches.
Really? Yeah. Just generally then, obviously we're not there yet. There's still 3 weeks left of the window. We haven't played a Premier League game. But do you see either a noticeable change or certainly a directional change in how we are trying to build this squad, how Amorim is trying to sort of have his team play and act? Do you think that will make a noticeable difference to how we play?
I think it's incremental gains in multiple areas all at once. Do they look fitter?
Yeah.
They look leaner?
Yeah.
Some of them look like they've put on some serious muscle. Kobe Mainoo looks like a different human being from what he looked like 12 months ago. They all look leaner. They all got a bit of a sinewy sort of a look to them. That's going to be a factor. You want to play a high-pressing system, especially with us only having 1 game a week. You want to play a high-pressing, energetic, intense system. Well, you've got to be leaner, you've got to be fitter, you've got to be more conditioned. Box ticked. There's going to be these rules around conduct. I think we've just opened a new Carrington. Is it today or tomorrow they open it?
It's coming out Friday.
So they opened up a new Carrington. When you hear that the club is Carrington shit, Old Trafford shit, this is falling apart, I wonder how much of announcing the stadium in the manner that they did was to sort of project the project. That's going to look weird written down.
Yeah.
But how much of it was to project the projects is that there's things moving here.
Yeah.
And then you know, Carrington's had a fucking lick of paint and some new tellies. Like, it's not been fucking groundbreakingly overhauled. But you make a big deal out of, like, look, we've done the blah-de-blah, we've upgraded the facilities. You as a player might walk an inch taller. You know, you as a player might go into your new changing room and, you know, your new shiny balls out there and your new cones and, you know, the grass has been painted, you're in your new training kit, there's your new shiny sign-ins, you've got all of these rules, everyone feels a little bit more connected, the bomb squad's fucked off somewhere. There's those little sort of whispers of discontent that aren't quite going, oh, this fucking training shit, manager's fucking shit, look at his state of these fucking balls, like fucking on all of me bib, like Carrington fucking crapping it, like, yeah, Cristiano said the fucking tiles in the pool haven't been changed. Why do you need to change tiles in a fucking pool? They don't degrade.
It doesn't really matter, but it does maybe matter.
Yeah.
When, like you said, all the whispers and all the behind the scenes is, that's not got any better. There's a hole in that. That's still leaking. These are a bit shit. Oh, have you seen this? The gate don't work on the car park. All that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you know, when it's all negative, it can take a little bit out of you. And does that mean you lose at the weekend? Not necessarily, but it might mean that, you know, the training's not quite as intense as it could be. The mood isn't quite as positive as it is. And I do think that stuff compounds. You know, small habits done consistently become big habits and big impacts. And that happens positive as well as negative. You know, one thing that's maybe allowed to happen, you're allowed to be 5 minutes late. 5 minutes becomes 10 minutes by the end of the season. 10 minutes becomes you fucking delayed the start of the session. Yeah. Those things compound. So I think just changing the narrative. You know, we've got a long way to go to be seen to be Daniel Levy in the transfer market. Can't get a player out of him. Can't get a deal out of him when it comes to signing someone. Yeah. Man United have got the 180-degree different perception. They've got to change that. Can you change the perception about Carrington? They might have literally done that this week. Can you change the perception about Old Trafford's not had a fucking lick of paint in 20 years? Well, don't matter because we're building a new stadium. You know that we're building a new stadium. You've seen the mock-ups of it. That might have even just bought them 5 years to shut that narrative up. What we're doing about the fucking state of the stadium, we're building a new one. Shut the fuck up. Like, all of those things start to make you feel like this is a part of a project that you want to be part of. You get a couple of good signings in, there's a bit of a feel-good factor. You start not tolerating a player that comes out in the media and says, I should have fucking started, this is a disgrace. Yeah. Cool, off you fuck. Like, those things really, I think, really do start. You know, the other one that they've got to fix is the press. You get away with just writing just slanderous lies about Manchester United. We know from journalists we've spoke to, if you write a negative article about Manchester City, they ring you up and they ask you to justify every fucking line in it. might even threaten legal action if they don't agree with what's been said or they think it's incorrect what's been said. You write 5 articles about Manchester City like that. How tired are you going to be? When you sit down to write your 6th hit piece on Manchester City, do you go, can I be arsed with their press officer being on the fucking phone and asking me to justify what this says? And Manchester United used to have that. Not with a press officer, but with fucking Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah.
I saw what you wrote. A lot of old shite. Off you fuck. You're banned. Was it bullying? Yeah. Did it fucking work though? Yeah. Because how many negative articles did you see about United when we were successful? And you might say, well, we were successful at the time. Yeah, but we were still big news.
Yeah.
And if you wrote about us and he didn't like it, you didn't get to fucking come to his press conferences anymore for months. Now, that's what we need to get back to. Is it a case of like controlling the media a little bit? Yeah, it absolutely is. But again, that's the perception of the club. The perception of the club is that we're a fucking soft touch. You change that by being more forceful. Now, Amorim's not got the power to do that at the moment. He hasn't earned the right to just start fucking banning people left, right and centre. But that's what we have to get back to doing. You have to change the narrative around Carrington, change the narrative around what we're like in the transfer market, change the narrative around the stadium, change the narrative about the team, change the narrative about all these fucking wasters and mollycoddled footballers that we've got. Start them being seen as hard-working athletes at the top of their fucking game. Tell them they're hard-working athletes at the top of the game. Watch their fucking bollocks grow and start acting like top athletes at the fucking top of their game. Because all that matters. Now, that has a knock-on effect. And I think that's where you do change it. But you have to change the perception of it. And again, is it one thing? No, there's a myriad of areas that United can improve it. And I think there's been mistakes made by Sir Jim and Ineos in terms of things like the charity. That didn't fucking 40 grand. Like he got told by Gary Neville. Could have put a dinner on and paid for that. Not a problem.
Yeah.
No, there's been mistakes. Some of the season ticket stuff where season ticket holders have had their tickets sold and sold for 10x the value to go to execs or to tourists and stuff like that. It's not a good look. No. There's a ton of things that I think they have got right. There's a ton of things I think they've made little clangers on as well. But I've always felt with what Ineos are doing, and the proof is in the pudding, the fact they've actually put fucking hands in pockets and tried to invest into stuff, which the Glazers haven't. I feel like they're different. I don't know if you can judge them effectively just yet, but when they came in and they immediately appointed, yes, it didn't work out with Ashworth, but they appointed Barada and Ashworth and Brailsford, and they went, here's the credentials of these lot.
Wilcox as well.
Was he immediately?
I think relatively quickly, but anyway, sorry, go on.
And the fellow, who's the fellow from PSG that we got? More on the business side.
Yeah, that was, I'll remember his name as you're talking.
We immediately went, here's the people that are going to be in charge of all this, and here's their credentials. They've all done it before. They've all done this. They've all done that. They've all done the other. They're the people that are going to make the football decisions. Not a fucking accountant or some prick who used to be on the fucking tills at JP Morgan. Like, actual people with football credentials that have done this at the highest level. They're going to be in charge of the football. And then you go, United seem to be assembling a squad that actually, if you did get Baleba over the line and Sesko over the line, people go, well, fuck me.
Yeah.
We've totally changed what we were about in terms of the squad. That's obviously the most impactful thing that we can do. It doesn't matter if Carrington is the best training ground on earth if we're playing in League One. It doesn't matter if Old Trafford's 100,000 with a fucking net and a load of neons, right? If it's in the Championship, we can be playing on a fucking Huff End if we're lifting the Premier League. Who gives a fuck? The squad's the most important thing. That's what they've gone to work on. And I think even Jim Ratcliffe, when he was making all of the redundancies, said, we're doing this to be more competitive on the football side.
Yeah.
Like, they're communicating with us. I feel like they're different to the Glazers. Now, the proof is in the pudding. They've got to deliver trophies, and they ultimately have to get rid of the Glazers and they have to get rid of the debt, right? That's a bigger conundrum, I'm sure. But I feel like they're at least trying.
Yeah, I completely agree. John Cole Blanc, by the way. isn't it? Who was at PSG and Juventus. Right, Steve, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone at home for watching as well. This has just been a look at how Amorim and Manchester United are changing the perception, changing the strategy at Manchester United. We'll see you in a bit.